Hi friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm grateful to have you here for a Pretty Pink Posh Christmas project video, and I'm excited to share with you another box card idea. I'm going to be mixing some new and older Pretty Pink Posh supplies like the Fringe tree dies and the layered bow stencil from the recent release. I'm also going to bring in holiday mug edition die sets and the holiday script stamp set and coordinating dies. Of course, I have my trusty Scallop box card dies and my sentiment strip dies that I love to use for every box card. I'm going to get my stenciling set up ready. I've done all of my die cutting before starting this segment of filming because there was quite a few pieces, so I'll talk about them as I go through each part of the box card assembly. I have the scallop detail die cut from some cream cardstock. Now, when I was first deciding how to create this card, I was only going to stencil the sides and front of my box card. I knew that my tree was going to take up a lot of space, and I didn't think I really needed to have a stenciled background for the arch piece of the box card. However, the bows end up being my favorite part of the whole project, so I will end up stenciling the scallop arch as well later on in the video and actually off camera, but it's the same process as what I'm doing now. So I have my pieces and I use the first stencil with Pucker Up Catherine Pooler. It's a pink ink. And for the second stencil, I'm bringing in some Lisa Horton Crafts Interference ink. This is Tropical Paradise, and it does have kind of definitely a hot pink feel, a different shade, more orangey than the Pucker Up ink, but I love these together. And the Interference ink actually has quite a fun shine and shimmer to it that looks really pretty in the light. It's a little hard to see on camera, but in the light, it's very cool. If you've never played with interference inks before in your stenciling, you should try it out with other Pretty Pink Posh stencils. For my sentiment, I already die cut my smallest sentiment strip out of some cream cardstock, and I have another scrap here that I'm going to use to stamp the first part of my sentiment. So I want to stamp Joy to the World, so I'm going to stamp Joy in that rectangle extra scrap piece I have on the bottom left of my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp To the World all the way on the right side of that sentiment strip. So I'm getting that lined up. I like to use the negative piece to line up my sentiments just because it's really hard to fit on those tiny little rectangles, but that way I'll get it placed right where I want it. I'm going to use that same Pucker Up ink pad for the Joy sentiment, and then I'm going to bring in, also from Catherine Pooler, the color All That Jazz for the second part of my sentiment. I was trying to find a teal that I thought would match the cardstock that I use for my scallop box card base. So now I'll have all of my pieces ready to go just after I die cut out my Joy, so I'll talk more about my die cuts. I have my scallop box card die. You know, the scallop pieces are in that cream, but the base itself is die cut from some teal cardstock. I die cut my Fringe tree dies out of some hot pink cardstock. I really like how this tree turns out. I cut the trunk of my tree out of that same cream cardstock. I die cut the bow from the holiday mug editions out of some black sparkly glitter cardstock, as well as the scallop sentiment strip. And then I have a stitched rectangle sentiment strip out of that same hot pink cardstock. Now I like to add different shelf pieces into my box cards, so the box card base itself is all from that teal cardstock, but I did die cut my little shelf piece out of some vellum. I just wanted a softer insert on the inside of my card, so instead of using a cardstock, I decided to use vellum. To assemble the box card together, I'm taking the front part of my box and just adding the left flap to the left side of the box card. Then I'll add in my middle piece. It takes me a while to find a good place to make sure I get it as centered as possible, but I'm using the grid to help me. And that is going to be right in the center of that side piece. Then I can remove the release paper from the other sides of the flaps for the front of my box, as well as that vellum little stepper piece. And then I go back and forth after I've closed up my box card to make sure that everything is folding and bending without any issues. To add in the scallop pieces, I'm just using a tape runner and I'll attach the two side pieces as well as the front. Like I said, I will later bring in the arch piece for the back, but as of right now, I have not made it yet. So once I get all of those pieces on, I'll move on to continue to build up my sentiment for the front of the box card. I'm going to start with adding that glittery cardstock first, since that is the largest of all my sentiments. The little scallop pieces line up almost perfectly with the front of the box card, so I use that as a guide to make sure I get that centered and straight. Then I'm going to use some foam adhesive to attach my hot pink cardstock, and that's mostly because of the glitter cardstock. I didn't want to have to worry about applying a lot of pressure or a lot of wet glue to make sure that this layer stuck down to that glitter cardstock. So I'm using a thinner foam adhesive. It's 1 millimeter thick to attach that layered piece. And then finally, I'm going to add my last sentiment strip, which was that cream cardstock that I stamped the second half of my sentiment to, and again, just using a tape runner to attach that. Once I have that in place, I'll use my tape runner again to add adhesive to the back of Joy, and then I'm going to do my best to get that as straight, but also not cover up any of the rest of my sentiment. It's a tight fit, but I really like how this looks on the front of the box card. After my sentiment is done, we'll move on to assembling my tree. What I love about the Fringe tree dies is that, well, there's a fringe on it, but you can use your finger or a scoring tool to kind of brush apart and curl those little fringe pieces to give your tree some dimension. So I'm going to do that with all three of my tree pieces. I did not cut out the largest of the fringe tree dies just because I didn't think it would fit on the box card, and my tree is already going to be sticking out a little higher than the box card as it is, so I only did the three smaller of the dies. I use my tape runner on the back of each piece to assemble my tree together, and I'll do the same to add the trunk of my tree, again using that same cream cardstock. I've always really loved the idea of a pink tree. I have far too many Hallmark ornaments that are just random and fun and have a lot of memories to have like a pink themed tree. But if I could have a second tree, I think having a pink tree would be really fun. Not sure if my family would also enjoy a pink tree, but I would like a pink tree. I don't know if I'd go this hot pink, but I think a pink tree would be really fun. Let me know down below if you have a non-traditional colored Christmas tree, because I would love to know and live vicariously through you. The final piece I'm going to add to my tree is the bow. I just thought the bow would be a better fit than the star to match the stencil set that I wanted to use for this card. So I'm going to attach that to pretty much the top of the tree. I lowered it just a little bit to make sure there was plenty of room for the bow to adhere to that tree. Now this is when I was finishing up the card, and as you can see, I'm really contemplating that back piece. It just felt like it was missing something, so I went ahead and stenciled the bows one more time on the scallop piece, again in that same cream cardstock. So I'm going to add my tape runner to the back of this piece, and then I will slide that in behind the tree. I really like pink and teal together for Christmas, so I didn't want to cover up too much of the teal, but those hot pink bows just really make me happy, so I'm really glad that I went the extra step to add that on the back of the card. Here's a close-up look at how my non-traditional colored Christmas box card has turned out. I hope you've been enjoying the series, and I'd love to know your thoughts on the Christmas tree. You could definitely replicate this yourself, and if you're not into hot pink trees, you could use more traditional colors for your box card. Let me know in the comments what color tree you would put on your version of this box card. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!